expanded to the West Covina Courthouse, so that if you're cited or ticketed for illegally riding your bike on the sidewalk or riding the wrong way, these folks are offered via the courthouse an opportunity, similarly to if you were ticketed uh, driving a vehicle, to attend an active SUV class at no cost to that person for a reduced fee or forgiveness of the ticket itself. And so that's a way that we're not being punitive towards people who may not be familiar with the rules of the road, may have a language barrier or other, so that again, it's not seen as punitive, but really promoting a culture of safety and building trust among community. Go ahead, next slide. And then engineering. These are some of the pictures that I want to show you all that are a little fun to look at. And so starting from left to right, you can see like why speed matters. The driver's field of vision narrows at higher speeds. And so you see one at 15 miles an hour, one at 20, bottom left corner, 25 miles an hour. And then at 30 miles an hour, you see what they see, right? And keep the size of the circle in mind as we go onto the next slide to see why this is important. So now someone's traveling 30 miles an hour, and we know that here from this statistic that almost 45% of drivers read a text or send an email while driving. And so distracted driving in this time and age is becoming very, very dangerous for people who are walking, biking out on city streets. And so if they're going 30 miles an hour and they're texting or emailing, you can imagine how perilous that is for folks who are walking or biking that don't have the same buffer as someone that's in a vehicle. And then to your right of the screen, you'll see what they call Refuge Island or Pedestrian Island. So when you have large or wide roads, you want to be able to provide as many mid-block crossings as you can in the event that people with disabilities or children or people that are more vulnerable aren't able to get all the way across with the allotted time, that there's a place for them to not be in the middle of the street. Go ahead and hit the next one. And then here you have other engineering aspects, which Sam and John are really great about, abiding by the complete streets policy and making sure that these designs are included. These will be central to having a successful Vision Zero approach. Again, infrastructure is really key. So here you have a pedestrian activated warning beacon. So the flashing yellow lights that provide additional warning to drivers that a pedestrian is crossing the roadway. Left turn signal phasing provides a green arrow for left turning vehicles, so stopping conflicting vehicles and pedestrians. And then one of the more low cost approaches that people can take are these LPIs, these leading pedestrian intervals, also known as early walk. So here you go. Research suggests that a nearly 60% reduction in pedestrian vehicle crashes can be achieved by adding these lead pedestrian intervals. And so these are, with respect to some of the other infrastructure costs, one of the more cost-effective things or solutions that the city could do immediately. Go ahead, hit the next one. And then roadway lighting. Lighting is always a concern for safety. Lighting can make all the difference in a community. Separated bikeways. They provide physical separation between bicyclists and traveling motorists. That picture is actually taken from your neighbors over in Temple City. If you ever got a chance to ride up and down Rosemead Boulevard. Curb extensions, as you see here, this person is walking across the crosswalk, and there's gutter, and then the curb extension, also known as a bulb out, again to shorten the crossing for pedestrians. What you find is that if you develop or design streets that are wide enough, 12, 14 feet, for cars to travel faster, guess what? They're going to be traveling faster. And so it's really important to narrow lanes to be able to slow things down so that pedestrians and other people who are not in a car are traveling safely. Go ahead and hit the next one. And then here, temporary roadway enhancements. Recently, the Council of Governments had a request to repurpose some of the Open Streets money to do some of these temporary roadway enhancements so that you can test and pilot them in your community. So all the things that you see in this picture in the upper right-hand corner are actually just, temporary. So it's paint, couple cones, markers, etc., so that you could see what this could look like. And you don't have to have, it helps to have the actual physical infrastructure, But in the short term, if you want to alleviate some of the intersection concerns and you want to pilot or get feedback from community on what their experience is, what recommendations could be made, this is a low cost solution here. And then one thing that I'll also point out here is that another short-term approach that you all can take. See how there's like red curb painting all along on the intersection here? Many times that when cars park there, it blocks the sight for the driver traveling either east or west or north or south for anyone that may be going into the crosswalk. And so if you look at all those blind spots that are, you know, that are in Baldwin Park right now, by just red curbing them, you can mitigate or prevent someone from hitting someone that's walking across the street. Go ahead and the next one. And then this is just more examples. So the Refugee Islands, which we talked about, and the roadway reconfigurations. Again, Baldwin Park's done a good job of applying for California ATP grants to draw down some of this funding. I know that you all were working to submit one for this round as well. So these types of infrastructure improvements are really going to make a difference. Go ahead and hit the next slide. And so here you are, keys to success. So equity and data-driven decision-making, again, responding to what the community feels is the most important, what their attitudes are, what their lived experiences, having data to support the decisions and making the infrastructure improvements that would then hopefully be included in your into your capital improvement program. Long-term commitment, so a funding commitment, every city receives local return from the Measure M program. There's also opportunities through the Measure M sub-regional program. Now with Measure W, you know, you have an opportunity to create multi-benefit programs that could all be funding sources. And I think, you know, Baldwin Park committing a minimum of 5% to 10% a local return from that they receive would be a strong signal to their commitment to achieving this 0 deaths in the next 10 years. And then ongoing community engagement and popular education. Absolutely, folks will have their questions about the practicability of some of the design improvements and some of the things that are being made, but having ongoing iterative conversations with community members in multiple languages, Spanish, English, and other API languages are going to be critical to ensuring success, because you want to not only communicate, you know, what the challenges are, but also the successes, right? And then last but not least, collaborative approach to get to 0 fatality. So this will take an integrated approach within your departments, within your community stakeholders, with community, the police force, to ensure that you can get to 0 fatalities. It's really a dynamic culture shift in the way that we think about traffic congestion, mitigating speeding and other vehicular concerns. And so with that, that concludes my presentation. If we want to go on to the next slide. That's me. That's just my contact info.
Yeah, well, let me, well, first of all, David Diaz, thank you very much. This is a very impressive presentation, and it's something that a lot of things here that we have somewhat maybe adopted, but we need to, I mean, we have barely just touched the surface on, but what you're presenting here, we definitely need to make sure that we apply this to our community, especially the survey that you did that. Now, it's interesting, you're saying that bicyclists have had more, I guess, accidents, 28 you report. I think that was the highest on that report, at 420. Could we place that back up there? That survey you placed, David? Is that possible? Were the fatal accidents?
Yeah, sure. Somebody, if whoever's controlling the IT, could put that back up.
Oh, sorry about that. Because just I saw that survey and I said, wow. Seems like the bicyclists have taken a brunt on this survey here. So if we look through here, let me see what I have. Hold on real quick. I have some blocking me.
Yeah, so what you're looking at is the total number of people who are biking, which is 27. But if you see, like, you know, it's one of them is bicyclists under 15 years old, that's 7. And so comparatively to the rest of the state, you know, 10 out of 106 is quite high. You know, Baldwin Park ranks top 10. So, you know, again, it's like how much infrastructure. One of the conversations we always have, Mayor Lozano, is, you know, we build bikeway networks, or we build class 2 bike lanes, the ones with, you know, the paint on the floor. But really, you know, after the paint or after that one bike lane, where do people go, right? They go right back into absent infrastructure, into the roadway. And so it's not consistent. And so if a driver and you only had 1 mile to drive on a paved road, right? Where would you go next, right? You kind of go off road. And it feels like that a little bit for people who are biking without proper infrastructure.
Yeah, you know what? Yes, exactly, and I definitely hear. I actually like that survey. Before I go on, David, I just want to acknowledge and thank Vice Mayor Paul Hernandez for bringing this up, placing this on the agenda, because it really gives you a whole caption of the community and the areas that we need to concentrate to assure that pedestrians are safe in the community. There was a little conversations about Main Boulevard and how's that become a from a 4-lane street to a 2-lane street. Well, guess what? Now you don't have competition where 2 vehicles are speeding, headed towards West Covina or the opposite way, because that was definitely known as a drag race area. But thank you for the presentation. Excellent data. Council members, anyone else?
Mayor, it's Monica Garcia.
Yes, it's Monica Garcia.
Hi, David. It's Monica Garcia, council member here in the city. Thank you for your presentation. And I wanted to ask you, so we embarked on the Complete Streets and Safe Routes to School initiatives years ago. And, there was a lot of planning involved, a lot of community input, a lot of the features that you just described in your presentation. And we targeted a corridor, which is Main Avenue, and that's what the mayor was referencing.
Yes.
And we recently completed the improvements. So I wanted to ask you about Vision Zero, and I am aware of Vision Zero and its goals and objectives. I'm just wondering how it's different from Safe Routes to School, Complete Streets. Does it enhance that and make it, just a more wider approach in the city? Is there more funding for Vision Zero at this time? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Just so that I can understand. Or does it all fall in the same bucket? And it's just moving forward, we're going to be, trying to draw down concepts and funding for Complete Streets, Safe Routes to School, and now Vision Zero. So help me understand that a little bit.
Yeah, hello, Council Member Monica Garcia. It's great to connect with you. Yeah, great question. I think the strategies of Safe Routes to School and Complete Streets policy are all strategies within a bigger vision of Vision Zero, right? So like if you can think of the Safe Routes to School programming as well as the Complete Streets ordinance serving as one of the strategies for Vision Zero is, I think, the best way to frame it. So it's kind of like an umbrella of Vision Zero, and then strategies would be Complete Streets and Safe Routes to School. This is the city of Baldwin Park declaring that within the next 10 years, they're going to do everything they can to get to 0 fatalities, 0 traffic related fatalities. I think that's the biggest kind of highlight. It's kind of like you're making a declaration or your mission and the strategies in which you're going to achieve that are through enacting Safe Routes to School programming, Complete Streets ordinance, which is some of the design guidelines that are being set forward. And then if you pair that with a funding allocation or commitment, that would make it even more feasible for you to get that.
Mm-hmm. It just kind of fortifies the package.
A commitment to traffic safety.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so it's more of a declaration that we're making, and it may fortify a package moving forward if funding becomes available to show that we've taken these measures. So Vision Zero, Complete Streets, Safe Routes to School. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Vice Mayor Hernandez.
Thank you. David, thank you again for taking the time, out of your schedule and continue to work with our staff. I know this is something that we've started, we had a conversation back in July that's just been ongoing. And, as Councilmember Garcia mentioned, the city has been already committed to, safe streets and, the school routes But as you eloquently pointed out, the Vision Zero is the overarching strategy or mission, excuse me, as you stated, that really makes a commitment from our side, and I mean from the city and also from our staff to be able to ensure that within 10 years the goal is to not have any type of traffic fatalities and even injuries in our city. And adopting this type of policy, we have skin in the game by the designs that we're doing. That's the city has been recently been doing with Sam and his team, along with the police department, and just the way we look at things from a 30,000 foot view. And of course, incorporating the school district and of course your organization. I think it just sets us up in a direction in which our city will continue to be improving for a very pedestrian friendly and pedestrian usage city that we have and population. We have a lot of young individuals riding their bikes. We have a lot of young individuals walking in our streets, and of course some of our elderly folks. And one of the things that this kind of came about was having traffic officers, cross guards at schools, and it's something that we pay for ourselves. One of my goals and hopes is that in the years to come, the parents and the students that are using those intersections don't feel that they have to have a crossing guard at those intersections, because again, the city has taken necessary steps to make it safer and make them feel safer in those areas. So regardless whether there's a crossing guard or not, it improves that area for pedestrian usage. So again, thank you for everything that you've done, David, and your team, and of course the ongoing efforts that the council's been doing for the last several years before today. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other council members?
Yeah, it's Monica Garcia again. David, I also wanted to mention, I'm sure that you're aware that we've applied for funding for a quiet zone and along the Metrolink, station. I think there are 2 sites, and the main one is at Pacific, and near City Hall. It's off of Pacific, and I think it's Bogart. But that certainly factors into this, and so like Vice Mayor said, it's an overarching declaration, and so I think that it would be important to include those efforts, because they are unique to our city. We do have a Metrolink station, and unfortunately we've had fatalities because of the Metrolink, and there have been at least 2 or 3 individuals killed, unfortunately. So that would certainly factor into this, and I don't know if we need to do that this evening and including that, or what we need to do, but just wanted to mention that so that it's accounted for in this overarching vision.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you all for doing the quiet zone. As someone who used to live right by the Armani Metrolink station and being woken up constantly in the middle of the night with a loud metro or freight train horn, I mean, it makes all the difference, for quality of life for residents within nearby proximity of the Metrolink station. So thank you all for doing that. And I think that the quiet zone itself, in order for it to be qualified, you have to make certain infrastructure improvements that signal that it's safe. And so again, that's like an infrastructure change that'll curb behavior, mitigate potential deaths in the future. And so Vision Zero will really cover all traffic related deaths, which include Metrolink within the city of Baldwin Park.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Yeah, thanks so much for the presentation. It's definitely where we need to go as a city.
Absolutely.
And we've been making progress in the infrastructure enhancements, and so we just need to keep at it enhance what we've already, implemented, and grow that so that more neighborhoods in the city, can benefit from these types of concepts and infrastructure improvements. So thank you. Thanks for leading us in this.
All right, anyone else? All right, if not at this point, Mr. David Diaz, thank you very much. And once again, thank Vice Mayor Paul Hernandez for bringing this to the agenda. All righty, so at this point, and also Sam Gutierrez, thank you very much. Let's get going with this homework. All righty.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. All right. So at this point, we're going to go over to I have the right one. Okay, the review of affordable senior housing development design proposed by Retirement Housing Foundation, Inc. So at this point, we'll have Mr. Ben Martinez. This is a very nice project, by the way. It will actually mark our, let me see, our fourth senior housing, I believe.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. It's Ben Martinez, Community Development Director for the city. Yes, it's my pleasure to present this project to the Mayor and City Council this evening. The project is an affordable senior housing development consisting of 54 units. It's located just right across the street from the Metrolink transit stop at 14513-519 Central Avenue. And the project has about 1,400 square feet of ground floor space on it. The project is being proposed by the Retirement Housing Foundation. They're with us tonight, and their architect as well. The project, we're very happy to be working with them. It's the first time they've developed in our community, but this organization has a lot of experience building senior housing around the nation, essentially. They've done a lot of projects. And so they're very experienced, and we're feeling with affordable housing, it's never an easy task. There's so many pieces to the puzzle. But I feel confident that with this developer, we're going to make it across the finish line and start to see this project under construction, even possibly next year sometime, 2021. And that would be great. Tonight, we are just talking about essentially the overall design. And I want to let the Mayor and Council know that planning staff led by Ron Garcia is already had many discussions with the architect and the developer regarding high quality architecture. We even pointed out, the mayor made comments about some of the multifamily buildings that he has seen in Monrovia and Pasadena. And when you look at this project, it looks like it can fit into any type of high quality community. And that's exactly what we want here in Baldwin Park. The project will require a density bonus and 3 deviations from our zoning code. That's the floor area ratio, the lot coverage, private open space. And these deviations that we allow through the density bonus law are given because the project is affordable. That's the law nowadays at the state levels, that you provide affordable housing, you get to deviate from the code so that this affordable housing project, which is urban and serving lower income folks, can fit into the community, and we can get a high quality project on a very small lot. This is a very, very small lot. So the project it will be processed by planning staff. And we need to remember that because of the density bonus law, the city cannot require discretionary approvals. So essentially tonight is to get the council's input on the design, and then have the architect work with that input and see what they can do. The project will be exempt from the CEQA process and only requires ministerial approval. So the CEQA process is also not applicable. And we've checked all this out to make sure that we're doing everything right with the city attorney. We had a a memo drafted from the project's attorney. It was reviewed by the city attorney. He concurs with this process. It's a very expedited process, and that's what the state of California wants. They want to encourage affordable housing like we do locally. So this density bonus laws encourage expediting these projects, making the process faster and easier. So we're doing everything we can to get this thing moving forward as quickly as possible. So I will introduce the team, or Ron, why don't you introduce the team and have them present the project to the mayor and city council.
Perfect. Thank you, Ben. Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff. I'd like to introduce Pedro Burba, who is the lead architect on the project, and Bob Fard from Retirement Housing. And last but not least, is she on, Ben? Let's see here.
Florence Webb is with us.
Yeah. Florence Webb, that's right. So Florence Webb with Retirement Housing, and Bob Fard, and the lead architect that designed the project, Pedro Burba.
Well, first of all, good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking an opportunity to be here today, explaining further on the project. Thank you.
Pedro, please start. You can present the project.
Pedro. So this is Bob Fard with Retirement Housing Foundation. Thank you, Ben and Ron and Mayor and council members. My name is Bob Fard with Retirement Housing Foundation. We're a nonprofit organization founded in 1961 that has since grown into 197 communities, most of which are affordable for seniors. We've been working on this project with staff for about the last 2 years. So you know, we've got a good sense of the downtown specific plan, as well as the kind of character and flavor of what the city wants to see at this site. And we understand it's going to be one of the first projects here on the other side of the tracks, both figuratively and literally. I'm not sure. I guess our architect may not be on. I know there was some confusion earlier on today, but I'm just going to go ahead and present this thing the best I can. We all assumed that he was going to be on tonight. So with your permission, I'll go ahead and get into some of the design aspects of the building, as well as some of the considerations that we had to give, and the concessions that Ben mentioned earlier that we were asking for as part of the affordable housing bonus. Because we have such a proximity to the local train stop, we're allowed certain concessions beyond just the regular density bonus, one of which would be no parking. Us being a affordable housing developer that keeps all of our buildings, we own and manage everything that we build. We don't sell and leave town. So you're kind of stuck with us for the long run, but we are pretty good neighbors. As far as this building, you know, our operations department wanted to make sure that we do have parking, because even though the law allows us not to have parking, we find most of our senior buildings require parking of some sort, whether it's caretakers, family, or a lot of times the seniors themselves. And so the first floor is mostly parking of the parking structure. As Ben mentioned, there's going to be about 1,400 square feet of commercial space that will be at the corner, roughly across from the train stop itself. So we thought that was a good opportunity to put in some retail and try to activate, if you will, that corner. There'll probably be some traffic, you know, as time goes on. This will be a more used space, and we think at some point a commercial space in that area will probably be successful. It is consistent with the downtown specific plan, and that's the main driver really of putting the commercial space in that area. On the other side of the lot, you'll see that we have the basically the lobby and the entrance area for the building. That would be where that's kind of where you would enter the space, whether you're parking or walking in from the building, which is a fully secure FO fob controlled building, as all of our buildings. And you get your mail there, run into the manager and maybe the social service worker, and either take the stairs or hop on the and go on to your living space, which is the second, third, and fourth floors. You also see the amenity space, some of the gardens outdoors, as well as the streetscape, which is going to be consistent again with the downtown specific plan, with the trees at every, I think it's 2 or 3 feet or whatever it is. But again, the project will be fully consistent with the design elements, the beautification elements. The concept we're looking for are really just the building, so that we can put 54, 55 units on less than an acre, which is, for us, pretty good. We think that's a responsible building. We don't try to get over our skis as far as density goes, although the demand for affordable housing is infinite. So the more we can build, really, the better for everybody. As far as the design elements, these are all 1 bedrooms. They'll be. You could go to the. Or do I have control here? Perfect. So the second, third, and fourth floors are more or less the same layout. You'll have some amenity spaces maybe on the third floor and the fourth floor, where you'll see an arts and crafts room and the exercise room are on the second floor. The third floor would probably have the gym, and the fourth floor might have the library, for instance. Again, we want to get the residents out and moving around, and not being stationary, whether it's on their floor or in their unit. We want them to come out and congregate. So you see this is the upper deck courtyard. So as you come out of the building, you're basically on top of the parking structure, and that would be an area that we would landscape most likely, and put in some other landscape and beautification elements up there for, again, draw the residents out and have them interact with each other. After doing this as long as we have, we find that the interaction between residents, specifically seniors, is really key to mental and physical health. The more they get out and interact, the more they're walking around, the more they're doing arts and crafts together, and doing puzzles and interacting with their neighbors, as opposed to staying in units where your health deteriorates rapidly. Those are the kinds of buildings that we want to promote, is get them out of their units and outside and interacting with everyone. So we go on to this next slide. Yeah, so that would basically be the view from, say, the bus stop, if you will, right out front from the metro station. That's the retail area on the ground floor. You have 3 floors of living area above. You don't have a flush stucco siding, right? This is some of the elements we picked up from the neighbor town in our multiple site visits. A lot of these facades are reliefed and not monogamous, right? So we did the breaking up of the siding so that you don't have one big monolith, and you have some shading and some angles. It lends itself well to kind of the nouveau redevelopment that we're really looking for, again, on the other side of the tracks. You see the street beautification and the downtown. Again, that's going to be consistent with the downtown specific plan, and the widening of the street, widening of the sidewalks, the parkways, and the streetscape. The landscape along the street. So that is the Juliet balconies is something that we as an organization like. We originally had regular balconies on there. We find that those become problematic in owning these buildings forever. Literally, all these problems we address in these buildings as we move forward And one of those we find was these the balconies that end up causing problems, whether it's 20, 30, 40 years down the line, they cause problems. And so we find that what we call Juliet balconies, which are kind of these facade balconies you see, which, you know, still open to the outside and you get fresh air, but it doesn't really cantilever outside out from the building. And so that's an element that is really more practical than anything, but it does add a pretty good, you know, breakup of the monotony. So that's kind of it in a nutshell in the project. You know, we're still kind of going through the fine tuning, but it is, you know, going to serve seniors making between 30% and 60% of AMI. You know, the amenities we talked about, there'll be a workout gym, audiovisual room, the outdoor gardens. You know, we intend to tap into the HUD financing as well as other funds and sources that we've been able to cobble together in the last 2 years that we've been working on this potential project, which again, if I didn't mention it, Ben and Ron and all the staff have been really great to work with. They really understand the importance of these types of projects, which again, the demand for these is infinite. We couldn't build these fast enough or dense enough and have a vacancy. You know, the lines are always, you know, a mile long. We usually end up closing these waiting lists, and it becomes a lottery system in getting a lot of these people in there. So that's about it as far as the building design.
There's one more slide, Bob. Bob, you have one more slide. There you go.
Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah. So this would be the top rendering would be if you're standing at the LA County yard right across from this site, more or less, and the photo below, or the rendering below would be kind of right past the other end of the building, if you will, right past the storage yard, the LA County storage yard. Again, you know, grip of it's not a one big monotonous stucco block. You know, we're going to have different types of siding and facades. Again, you see a breakup of the tone and the texture really well in the bottom rendering. I think the sidewalks are actually going to be wider than what we're showing there, if I read the downtown specific plan correctly. But I think these give a really good general overview of our intent for you know, what the building's going to look like, and we think in the long term this is going to be the right project in the right place, and hopefully it'll be a catalyst for again the other side of the tracks, you know, beautifying than what you see now. There's a lot of tired buildings around us, and hopefully we'll change that. And a lot of times, frankly, that is exactly the case. We build in South LA, we build in East LA, we build in a lot of areas being based in Long Beach, in Southern California, and you know, it wouldn't surprise me at all that, you know, after this project goes up, that you kind of start seeing other things pop up around us.
Thank you, Bob. I'll just end the presentation by saying that this project it starts to push the boundaries of the discussions we're having as we update our downtown specific plan, and it meets many of the goals and ambitions that we're talking about. Not to get too far ahead of that process, I know it's just started, but this is the kind of process that will pioneer the new downtown plan, and we're definitely looking at that area for expansion, the downtown specific plan, possibly to expand more in that area. And then lastly, we are working with the developer to look at public assistance. The council authorized staff to produce a project-based voucher, a request for proposals, and this will allow us to help finance the project. We're looking to provide possibly project-based vouchers that the developer will have permanently at the project for the low-income seniors. And that's very similar to the type of project across the street from City Hall. They also have project-based voucher type of assistance. Thank you. We'll take any questions or comments, Mr. Mayor and City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Council members to share any input?
Mayor?
Yeah, is that Council Member Monica Garcia? I see you in the dark somehow.
Yes, that's me. So I do have a question, or a few questions. So what are the what are the deviations from the code? We talked about the floor area ratio, and what were the other two?
Anyone?
Bob, I'm sorry, Ron?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Council Member Garcia. The deviations that are being requested are FAR lot coverage. The other is common and private open space area. And lastly, the minimum residential floor areas of the units as allowed under the state density bonus.
Okay, and that was going to be my next question is, what are we looking at in terms of the size of each unit?
I
So
can
the
speak
size
to
of-
that.
Perfect. Oh, Pedro's on with us. Sorry about that. There was a little technical difficulty. Pedro,
Yes, I've been on, but I was muted. Great job, Bob. Hello?
Go ahead.
Hi,
yes, go
Pedro,
ahead.
go
Go ahead,
ahead.
Pedro.
Okay, so one of the financing vehicles for this project is federal 202 funds and from HUD, and HUD has some lengthy requirements relative to the housing that they will finance, and the unit square footage is limited to 500 square foot, 540 square feet for a one-bedroom apartment. And that lines up with the requirements of TCAC in the state of California.
What was the
Mhm.
square footage you said?
It's
540.
540.
Okay, thank you. And is that for a one bedroom?
That is one bedroom, correct.
All right.
And
Councilman?
Pedro, how many units?
It's the project is 55 units. It's 54 one bedrooms and 1 2-bedroom manager's unit.
Oh, okay. Okay, and so that's one of the deviations and why we're asking for less than what the code would allow for a one bedroom.
And Monica, just so that way, just give you a little more for reference. So they're proposing for a one bedroom, the under that zone for mixed use, it requires 700 square feet for it to be a one bedroom unit.
Got
And
it.
the deviation is 200 square feet.
Yeah, okay, I see. And then when we say that it doesn't require discretionary action, so it doesn't need to go to the Planning Commission or to the City Council?
That is correct, based on state density bonus law. Based on the criteria of the way that this project is being proposed, given that it's 100% affordable, and also to add that it's in it's a half mile of a major transit center. So if you can check all those boxes, essentially allows the developer to come in and submit for ministerial approval. So
Okay.
does not, essentially to answer your question, does not require Planning Commission or City Council discretionary approval.
Okay, so even more the reason why this presentation is important so that we can provide any input right now. And I did have a question about the design. What is I didn't see the commercial. If we can bring back the rendering, if we could bring that back on the screen. Thank you. So I see that in the front, there's like something projecting out. What is, can somebody help me understand that?
Yes, that is supposed to be a shading device. It's like a trellis.
Okay, and is it going to project out quite a bit of feet?
It's going to project just enough to take the sunlight off of the glass on the retail. We have that here on the corner, and we also have it at the residential entry at the opposite end of the building.
Okay, is there any rendering that shows it more, from the side so that we can get a clear view of how it projects out? I mean, and it looks like it's going to be just kind of like a box, like a rectangular box that's being projected out. So is everybody on the council okay with that?
I mean, it looks nice. Council members? I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it, you guys. Because I feel that it complements the rest of it, but I can understand Monica's concern in terms of like, it's a little bit different, I guess, if you are focused on it, but I'm okay with it for its purpose.
Mm-hmm. Well, as long as we all are looking and seeing the same thing, because sometimes what happens is a project is built and then, you know, it's after the fact. So
Yeah, Councilmember Garcia.
Uh-huh.
Sorry, we'll make sure we put that at the top of our value engineer list. But as you know, a lot of these projects, they, they'll take a little bit different shape and form when they're actually built. And so, but we'll definitely take that into consideration from an owner standpoint. We don't love that element either.
Okay.
But we do understand there needs to be some sort of shading or at least some sort of breakup of the monotony of the building.
Oh, okay. And I think this rendering looks great. I like how it's, you know, kind of got that transitional height going. I think it was just more in the front where it was just kind of projecting out. And I think everything else looks very nice. I really like how you've designed it with, you know, all this articulation and the different colors and the features, you know, the stone or the brick. It was just that one. So maybe if you guys don't really, you know, are not big fans and can think of something in its place. But otherwise, I mean, I think it looks very nice. And so the commercial is right below at that entry at the corner there. Is that what I'm, okay. Oh, I see it. Okay, thank you for pointing it out more. Okay.
And that's basically right across from the metro stop, if you will. So, the thought being there is when you get to your stop or when you're getting off your stop, maybe that's a potential to pop your head in there and grab a coffee or a sandwich or a bottled water. I don't know, but that was kind of, that's the audience we're trying to capture, because I don't think people are going to be driving to this area just to hit this retail spot, right? It's not really on Main and First.
Yeah, that's a nice little feature, especially for those wanting to grab a coffee in the morning and, you know, maybe a bite to eat, things like that. So I like that. That's a great addition to the project. So otherwise, I think it's beautiful. It looks really good.
All right, Councilman.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yes, I know that in the courtyard area, what do you plan on doing there? Are you putting benches? What are you doing there for the residents?
Yes, we will. We will have benches, and there's also on the lower level there is an actual vegetable garden also.
Oh, okay. Where is that exactly?
If we have the slide of the first floor plan, there is a landscaped area that is accessible from the elevator lobby. It's I would call it the northeast corner of the site. And we would have raised planters so that the seniors could do hobby gardening.
Okay. And then I know you said you will have different activities. Do you have a calendar for them that they come down on certain days? You have certain activities planned for them, or is they just randomly come to the activity areas?
I think.
Yeah. So thank you for the question, Councilmember. Yeah, probably a little bit of both, because this isn't a humongous building. And you know, I didn't mention, we actually own and operate the largest senior affordable building in the nation that we know of. It's in downtown LA, the Angeles Plaza, which is about almost 1,100 units adjacent to Angel's Flight. If you've ever ridden Angel's Flight, you've been right next to our building, the four towers right there. And we find, you know, when we own that type of community, we definitely need to have a calendar, and we produce calendars, I think, 2 months in advance, and the activities are well advertised to everybody. On a 55 unit project like this, we'll probably have some calendars if there's a special event or something that's really important for the residents to attend, whether it's, you know, how to use a bank app, or you know, put Uber on your phone, or whatever it is, or computer training classes. Just because there's not that many people, so you could probably get away with doing a calendar and just kind of having people pop their heads in, and if enough people kind of show up and ask the same question, then maybe that merits a calendar event to where everyone kind of gets a notice that, you know, in 3 weeks we're going to kind of do this type of program.
I know some projects that hold, you know, like Christmas events, Thanksgiving events, where everybody joins in and has type of potluck. So I was wondering if you did those type of events for them.
Oh yeah, that's a given. In fact, the employees try to go to those things, because at the senior buildings, they do it right. And we always have a community kitchen, you know, and so again, we want to get everyone out and interacting with each other. And yeah, those potlucks, whether our social services coordinators or the management managers set up, the residents end up setting those up themselves. So so that really works out. As long as you give them a venue to interact and come out and socialize, those events and things end up happening.
I really
with
like
the senior
fact,
buildings, not necessarily. Yeah.
I like the fact that you're keeping them engaged and busy, because you're right. A lot of them may just want to stay indoors. Some of them may not have anybody coming over to visit. And the fact that you guys are engaging everybody, I think it's great to keep them busy and motivated. I like the rendering, and everything looks really nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Vice Mayor Hernandez.
Thank you. You mentioned that the square footage for these units are approximately 500 square feet, give or take?
540.
540. Is it possible to, you know, eliminate one unit to be able to expand on these units a little bit more? Because, you know, what's 540? Is that like 23 by 25 by 24 by 24 or something, or 25 by 23?
In this case, they're about 22 by 25, something like that. Got
it. And just out of curiosity, the other build outs that we have, maybe, you know, Ron will know this. What about the facilities across the street that were recently built? How big are those right now? And even the De La Cool ones across?
A good question, council member. I wasn't here at the time, and unfortunately, I don't know what the average sizes are of those units.
Right. I mean, because again, you know, I appreciate everything, and I love the design and everything else of the project, and I'm well aware of your project in downtown LA, which used to be the old, you know, if I remember correctly, those were the old Olympic housing units for the '84 Olympics that were converted over, if I remember correctly. But honestly, if we could, you know, expand the space for some of these units, I'd appreciate that, because, you know, once you start adding, you know, someone in a wheelchair and other type of mobile units to help them walk around, it becomes a little bit cramped. And I know, you know, one of the purposes and one of the good things that you guys have been doing for quite some time is, you know, pulling them outside of their homes or their bedrooms to be more active outside, you know, with all the various activities that, you know, Councilmember Avila had mentioned and stuff that you guys have mentioned. But ideally for myself is, you know, if we would be able to eliminate one of the units to be able to make some of them a little bit larger, or perhaps, you know, if there's one that's, you know, that's more of, you know, wheelchair accessible, a little bit larger, to allow a little bit free flowing for that type of ADA design. I certainly would be, much more appreciative of that.
The state of California, because they are involved in the project also from a financing standpoint, they require that 100% of the units in a senior building be ADA accessible. So all of these units are ADA accessible. And additionally, the feds under 202 require that all units comply with what's called universal design, which is the concept of allowing people to age in place. And all of these units are compliant with that concept.
Perfect. And
Yeah.
And then what about a little bit of the extra elbow room to be able to have, if they have somebody over or a couple folks over in their units, they don't feel all cramped up in a small little studio, essentially is what we're calling them.
These projects are competitive as to the cost of construction. And so inevitably, any increase in square footage is an increase in cost.
Yeah, and if I can add to that, that's a great point, Pedro and Mayor Pro Tem. I appreciate the question. Actually, I think it's a very responsible question. As what are you guys building in my town, and why is it so small? I'll be honest with you. This new density bonus law, actually, because we're within a half mile of that train stop, allows us, believe it or not, unlimited density, which automatically triggers micro units. Again, as long-term owner developers of these buildings, we don't want micro units. We don't want to do what they're going towards in Hawaii and some of these other areas where they don't have real estate. There's only one solution to this affordable housing now crisis, and that is to go micro units and to go up as much as you can. But again, that's a whole different ball of wax for a company like us. That's not how we build and how we manage and operate. And so, that is a consideration that we have. And we found that, going back to Pedro's point, for every dollar we spend on these units, it's not like a market rate developer where we get to charge an extra 10 cents a foot because now they have more elbow room. That's just more cost that we have to absorb because that rent is fixed. Whether we spend $100 a foot or $1,000 a foot, the rent we're going to collect doesn't change at all. And so, we have to kind of find that sweet spot. And frankly, 540 is actually a pretty fair square footage for affordable housing in today's marketplace, at least.
This is Florence Webb with RHF. Let me just add something. We're looking at this as being a HUD 202 funded project, and HUD will not allow us to have unit sizes any larger than 540 square feet. And we across the country we've built many of these, and we have excellent design teams, and you would be amazed what they can put into and how comfortable these 540 square foot one-bedroom apartments are. They do an excellent job, and Pedro is doing that. So we have good design teams all over the country that does that, but we are limited by HUD, unfortunately, to only have 540 square feet.
Thank you.
Are the council members wishing to add anything? Let me just first of all, thank you very much for doing the presentation. Several concerns for me on this project. First of all, Ben, explain to me. So I know we have several other similar projects that are coming through. This one doesn't have to go to CEQA, doesn't have to go to the council, doesn't have to go to the planning commission. So basically, it gets built regardless of what we want because they purchased the land. Am I correct in that, or am I wrong?
That's essentially the case, Mr. Mayor, but not because they bought the land, whether it was their land or even our land. As in the case of some of the other projects, it still is the same entitlement process. Now, if we own the land, we're going to enter into a development agreement to exchange the land, and we can put conditions in that regard. So it's a little different process.
But in this case, we don't, because that's basically an independent landowner, what have you. So we get another project similar to this, and I'm not certain if the one that we're looking at off of Ramona, without mentioning the actual area, are they also and similar? Is that a similar project with what this project is being proposed? The same thing?
Yes, they will take advantage of the same downtown specific plan, benefits, the density bonus and so forth. Yes.
So it is, in other words, it's the same application through HUD. So they don't have to go through CEQA. They don't have to go to Planning Commission. They don't have to go to City Council. Am I correct? Or am I wrong? The one being proposed on Ramona. You know which one I'm talking about?
Yes. On the north end,
Yes.
northwest.
Yes.
Very similar, Mr. Mayor. There might be some slight differences, but I will say very similar. Yes.
Okay, the only concern long-term in Baldwin Park are these type of projects because we have limited, and I appreciate, we need it. We obviously need it, especially for the seniors, but the mere fact that the city has very limited power over the say-so of it is definitely a concern for me. 540, that's a very small space for anyone, but of course, yes, the density bonus and so on and so forth that they're talking about, I understand that part. My concern is not having, these projects that are being built overnight because there is a lack of housing. We know that 3.5 million is being requested throughout the state of California. So that's gonna be interesting regarding this project here. But nevertheless, it looks good. Those are my concerns and long-term concerns for the city of Baldwin Park. How many units are going to be in this project?
54 units, Mr. Mayor.
Here's another thing I don't like, because it's federal funded. The disadvantage here for the city of Baldwin Park, and I've said this over and over, is that it is open for anyone throughout the county or throughout the state for that matter. So it's a major disadvantage. We're building this type of facility. I want ballpark residents, but we can't have that. So there's no guarantee that all 54 units are going to be occupied by ballpark residents. So those are the disadvantages that we have. So I just want to state that for the record, because I wish it was just Baldwin Park residents, but that happened to the Rome project, that happened to the Telecu project, and that happened to the Paloma project that I was present. That's the only thing. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that is true. And to address that, those are fair housing laws, which we must respect and abide by, but we are allowed to market this project locally, and we will do that. And there's many things we can do to market this project locally. We just cannot, discriminate, so to speak, out people that live outside of the city, but
and I understand that, Ben. For me, the discrimination is a sad part that our own residents can't get it. We're talking about trying to house this report by the county, like 500 and some odd homeless. Well, you know what? Let's get some of these seniors that are involved, that are part of that. But that's the unfortunate part. Yes, I understand. The discrimination is that it cannot be 100% City of Baldwin Park. And that's the sad part. But I just want to place that on the record for everyone to know. Right,
and I agree with you on that part, Mayor, because that's a conversation I've had with Ben also, to give priority to our residents. But Ben, you said that we can advertise to our residents first, or is that what you said, or what was it that you said exactly?
Yes, we essentially can market locally, and there's nothing wrong with marketing locally. That
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ideally, like the mayor said, would be to get our residents to profit from all of this and are homeless, but we understand there's laws that we need to follow. Maybe someday that law will change and we can do that, or every city, because we're not the only city with this problem. But the rendering is nice. It is small, yes, but they are following all the guidelines. Thank you.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for that, Councilmember Alejandra Avila. Good points on your part. I guess my concern and my frustration is that, these new projects are good, but they're not really benefiting the city of Baldwin Park in general. But nevertheless, it's what it is at this point. We're going to move forward. So thank you very much for the presentation.
And Mayor, what we had done in the past, and we can probably do in this case, is we prepared the marketing notifications, and we sent those out to Baldwin Park residents first, so that hopefully they could be the first to get in line for the project. And we'll work with the developer to do that again.
Now, out of curiosity, so is that done on a lottery basis? Someone after that, please.
It probably will, Mr. Mayor. Yes, there's so much demand that it usually ends up being a lottery. So the goal is to try to get as many local Baldwin Park residents to apply so that there's a better chance of housing local people through the lottery. But it definitely will be a lottery because for 54 units, I've seen thousands, 2,000, 3,000 applications.
Definitely.
And I'm sure the developer has too.
Yes, and I've seen that with those other senior projects that we have here. The unfortunate part, the good portion of that didn't go to local residents because of the lottery. But again, I understand there's laws that are involved there. I personally think they're unfair to cities, especially like the city of Baldwin Park. This community is no different than others, but we have a very high necessity to be able to house some of our homeless and some of the individuals that are not just can't make it out there on their own. But nevertheless, we could be on that all night. At this point.
Okay, Mayor.
Yes, Councilmember Monica Garcia.
I just want to, based on the comments that you just made, I do have a question for Ben, and it's regarding the funding, so that we know moving forward, if we wanted to create housing that is more available, accessible to our local residents, would we be able to do that using city funds? Or even with city funds, because they're public funds, we wouldn't be able to create, that ability to kind of pick and choose.
That's correct, council member. The latter of what you said.
So
even
if we had our own funds instead of federal funds to complete a project, we would still be required to go through the lottery process, and that's really open to the public.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's good to know. I mean, on the positive side of this, you would hope that some of our residents will be housed, but this could also be a catalyst project for some of the development in the area or redevelopment.
Yeah. And, it would be sorry about that, council member. Go ahead.
Yeah, and perhaps that would be a benefit for the neighborhood moving forward. Changing up the uses, especially along the Metro Link. And right now, I think they're more industrial, like they're light industrial, if I recall. So this could serve as a catalyst project for that, for further redevelopment. And then I think at that point we might have more discretion of what projects come in, because it would probably just be private at that point, not affordable housing. So just adding a little something, side note of the benefits.
All right.
And that could contribute to our economic development plan. So, I mean, tell me what you think, Sam. I'm sorry, Sam. Ben, would you agree with that?
Yes, I do. We're at the beginning in our downtown plan development. We do have the Rome project. But this and the other projects that we have slated is going to be the catalyst for more projects, not just affordable, but hopefully market rate.
Yes.
And that's going to present a lot more opportunities and a lot more potential for economic growth. So we want to encourage all of it. I think that's the plan, but we want to do it wisely. We want to do it though in a carefully, in a plan very carefully, so that at the end of the day, this one project looks great in that overall downtown development vision in that specific plan. And that's the idea.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Monica Garcia. Anyone else? If not, at this point, I want to thank the presenters, and thank you very much, Ben Martinez, for the presentation. Thank you. Right. So we're going to go on to the next.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, my battery on my Mac is about to run out, so I'm going to step over to where Ms. Councilmember Ayala's at, and then I'll hook up to my phone after. All right, thank you.
Okay, and Mayor, I think you're ready to adjourn to closed session?
Your microphone's off.
I think the mayor just stepped away. He said his phone, something about his phone.
He did just step away, but he said we were going to adjourn to closed session.
Oh, okay. So we're going to adjourn?
Yeah, everybody can log off, and then those involved in closed session can log into that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.